Quite often you might see a flat belt driving some sort of a machine. I'm trying to do the same thing, but I must solve a challenge first. How to tighten the belt once the engine is running. Usually the tractor or the steam engine has a clutch built in, so the belt can be set to the right tension. If the engine's running, then the pulley is spinning, and that's that. If I set the right tension on the belt first and then try to start the engine, it will be like trying to start your car when it's in gear. So, as I say, I need to find a way to tighten the belt once the engine is running. So I need a third wheel, a tensioner. So I set out to make one on the lathe. I found a piece of holly in the wood stack. My plan was to drill a hole right through for a spindle, but I didn't get very far. I had to use an extension bar to get the length I need, but perhaps I didn't attach it firmly enough because it just fell off. At least I was able to get the drill out again. Looks like a fossil, doesn't it? I'd say early Augurian period or something. So I moved on to this alder log. This time I just went through without backing out, and that was successful. There was no way to get the faceplate on completely accurately because I'm just doing it by eye. But I did my best and I popped it onto the lathe. The hole in the log is obviously in the middle at this end because this end has a tapered end stock, but not necessarily in the middle on the other end, but perhaps it's close enough. I don't think it matters how big this pulley is, just that it has a small crown on it, a convex curve to center the belt. But lots of people have said I'll need a flat pulley with upright sides like this one, but much bigger, and they may be right. But I'm thinking that if the sides do touch the belt at all, then sooner or later the belt will get worn away. So I'm trying my way first. Of course, making the pulley is the easy part. Introducing it to the belt at the right angle is crucial. So I made up a heavy rigid frame and welded hinges to it. And attached that to the engine frame. And it's all square and lined up, but it still didn't work. The belt wandered off to the side and would eventually have fallen off. It's all very sensitive, and the small amount of flex in the frame was too much. And the bearings I'm using, because I had them, can't be adjusted easily, so I probably should have gone for pillow block bearings. So I cut this willow branch from the hedge and tied it to the ceiling. One end has a stirrup or single tree or spreader bar to spread out chains over the belt, which connect to either side of the new pulley. The key is the bottle screw turnbuckle, so I can adjust the tension on one side. Now the other end of the stick is attached to a bucket of concrete with a hook in it. The bucket is so I can move it out of the way when it's not being used. Hook's off, hook's on again. And that means this goes And that means that goes up and down. And that goes up and down. Tight, loose, tight, loose. And I can adjust the pulley until the belt stays on, and stays on more or less in the right place. And that's excellent news, of course. I was worried that the wheel was just too big for this system to work, but the crown I made in the rim seems to keep the belt on, at least at this speed. But, of course, the hardest part is yet to come. The belt has to stay on when it's taut, of course, but it also has to stay on when it's slack too. Otherwise, it will fall off and might get tangled in the engine or the wheel or both. But when it's slack, the crowns in the pulley and the wheel don't work, or barely work, because they're not really gripping the belt. So the biggest challenge really is keeping a loose belt in position. Who'd have thought it? Interesting. So I butchered one of my roller stands. And I made a different stand for the roller. And now it seems to keep the slack belt from falling into the wheel. It shouldn't touch it at all when the belt is tight, and only when it's slack. And only when it wanders off course. It's working harder. So far so good, but of course this is all happening at very low speed. Will the same thing happen at 600 RPM? And what would happen if things go wrong?
Sort of riding up that side roller.
I guess if the belt got wrapped around the main engine shaft and then jammed up somewhere else, then it's possible that shaft could get bent, which could be the end of the engine altogether, and that would be a disaster. So I'm proceeding with caution and trying everything over and over. What happens if it does rise right up? Will came, and between us we tried to think of all the things that could go wrong. There were a lot.
Which is the main thing.
Okay, I'm just going to slam it into gear and see what happens now. Oh.
So, I think meant
Just stop.
If it stopped more suddenly, like you turned it off, and that was up to RPM, then we could see quite a lot of forces going through the belt of that pulley, I would have thought, and it's definitely going to skid there.
You might come over here and turn the engine off.
You might, yeah. You'd either
Instead of taking the clutch off first.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd have to take the clutch off and have a brake.
Yeah, if you
wanted some other way of doing that.
If you just let this freewheel at high speed, then that's more likely to have the belt fall off, isn't it? And then there was nothing left to do except try it. So I filled the water cooling system. It's been empty for weeks because of the possibility of frost. And we started the engine. For this first time, we turned off the engine and then engaged the clutch. So if something went wrong, the engine would already be slowing down. But nothing went wrong. The belt stayed on and the wheels spun up to speed in no time.
Really impressed how much energy was in there. I wouldn't have thought it would have been still going now.
Yeah, it's pushing the whole engine now.
All of that went into there and got it going up.
And now it's coming back again, isn't it?
Mad.
When the belt is slack, it skids on the engine pulley, so we can't leave it like that for long or it would be worn away.
Staying on.
So far so good. Scary but exciting. The next time we didn't turn off the engine at all. We left it running while we engaged the clutch and it still worked. That clunky noise is the eccentric on the wheel. It's not attached to anything, so it's loose. I have tied it up to the spokes, but it can still move a bit. So now we're up to full power and full speed, which is brilliant. I can hardly tell you how relieved I was to see this staying on. But how do we stop everything again without disaster? We decided that it's safest and simplest to leave the belt tight while the engine slows down and stops. That way, there's less skidding and wear, and of course the belt is more likely to stay on because it's engaging with the crowns.
I'm terrified. The clunking adds a lot of drama where there needs to be any. I mean, it's working beautifully.
Yeah, maybe I had to touch on a bit too hard.
Yeah, my knuckles were white. It looked like you were clinging on for life.
Look, the engine seems happy and the wheel seems to be spinning perfectly. At just over 60 RPM, maybe 62 or 63, so close to what I was expecting. Yes, you're right. There's no brake or safety fence. It's okay, you don't need to tell me. I noticed myself. Let's just get the whole thing working first, okay? And the next job will be to connect up my shingle maker wood slicer charcoal grinder machine thingy and see what happens.